Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this conversation about your Kundalini Awakening experiences. I hope the music came through okay. Hard to tell what everybody's hearing and what isn't. So I hope that worked, and maybe we can bring a few more musical pieces in that have directly to do with the Kundalini. So I'd like to welcome everybody here. I see that our chat room is starting to fill up and people are starting to call in. I would like to give the guest call-in number, and that number is 347-934-0026. Once again, that guest call-in number is 347-934-0026. You call in, and Shantara will pick up the phone, and she'll talk to you, and hopefully my eyes will be open, and excuse me, I won't be streaming Kundalini at that time or streaming the Kundalini consciousness. So I'd like to welcome everybody here. I see we have callers from the East Coast of the United States, the West Coast of the United States, and the midsection of the United States. And then we have guests. We have 3 different guests here, and who knows where they're from, but I welcome them to the show as well. And here we're going to go ahead and start in with it. I want you to know that certain preliminary infusions will occur before a series of kriyas or a spinal sweep occurs. And this is often very confusing for people. Got a few people on some of our internet groups that are complaining about the same thing. I'm not sure complaining is the correct word, but they're describing similar symptoms. One person is having an infusion that basically makes the arm sore from the elbow to the fingertip, but nowhere else on the body. And it's almost like the muscles are being expanded by an inside force that wouldn't be normal for them, almost as if you're walking around with strained muscles without having strained your muscles. And this will happen, typically this will happen muscle group by muscle group as she traverses around your body, upgrading those muscle groups in ways that allow for a greater reception of Kriya-based energy to come through. And then that person may begin to have twitches, or be like if you just have it from your elbow to your fingertips, well then your wrist and your hand will you'll pivot at the wrist, you'll turn the wrist this way and that, probably to the extremes. You'll open your hands extremely wide so that the fingers are widely spread out, and then you may be compelled to close them up tight as if they're in a fist. She may give you different mudras, automatic mudras that are coming through. Don't worry about that. That's all good. That's all clear. And you also may have this in other various areas of the body, such as the back, the back has many different muscle groups converge upon the back, and she may pick a muscle group or two and begin to infuse that, and of course that'll feel like you have a sore back, or you'll feel like you'll have some sort of an electronic energy that's going through, and that's kind of hyper tensing the muscles in your back, and she may go muscle group by muscle group, but not in a logical linear format, not in a logical linear order. Most of the times it's in an order that defies our expectations of what needs to come next, and perhaps what doesn't. And so this is very important for people who are early on in the process to understand that you have pre-kriya infusion upon the muscular system. And this is everything from having, from needing to move your feet a lot, or needing to stretch in certain ways. She will put you in a position where she wants you to stretch the muscle groups in certain directions. This is how yoga can be so helpful during early Kundalini awakening. You can kind of go with what the Mother Shakti wants you to do as regarding a yoga position, and move with that position. Actually, make sure you go both sides with it, both sides of the body, but stay in that position for a good 3 minutes, which if any of you have done yoga, 3 minutes can seem like a really long time to hold a position or to hold a stretch. But this would be the most conducive, I think, with regards to people having a positive acceptance and a lack of resistance to what the sacred Kundalini is compelling them to do. It's very, very, very much in support of the Kundalini infusion. So if you do have access to yoga, vis-a-vis the internet or television or a CD or some sort of a download, find the one. I prefer that you not do hot yoga. This would be Bikram's hot yoga. Not that the yoga is bad. It's just that doing that yoga at 102 degrees, the focus really isn't on the Kundalini. It's more on withstanding the heat and doing the position. And so I would like as little distraction as possible. So you can do the Bikram positions. They're just fine. I think there's like 46 of them, 23 on each side. And so that's fine, but just turn the thermostat into a gentler temperature. This is not a hot yoga practice, okay? And I have done hot yoga. I know about hot yoga. I've actually been through it a few times, and I don't mind it. It's great, but it's really not conducive for Kundalini equilibrium. So just an FYI for that one. Definitely allow yourself to stretch. If you're doing Tai Chi, the Tai Chi moves can be very helpful in this area as well. But even so, the Tai Chi may not stretch your muscle as much as the Kundalini may want you to do it. And so, once again, if you can just find a stretch, whether it's a yoga stretch or an Asian format stretch, do that stretch. Make sure you do it on both sides so that you have equilibrium on the body. And allow those infusion impulses to take place. Some of you, not all of you, but some of you may get some electrical shocks after these preliminary infusions, pre-kriya infusions, and these electric shocks may form a twitch, but you'll actually feel the electricity surge through your body. It's electricity-like, but it isn't actually electricity. So there's an FYI, about these pre-kriya infusions of energy, and you'll feel them. You may feel them in the ring muscles. The ring muscles typically get this, and the ring muscles are the eyes, the nostrils, the mouth, and the rectum, and then of course the opening to the genital area. Those are the ring muscles. Those ring muscles. They close like the lens of a camera. Okay, they open and close in that way, and the ring muscles may start getting twitches in certain. Nothing is wrong. You don't need an antispasmodic medication. You don't need any medication. You just need to be aware of what is happening and to allow this to happen without any resistance. Once again, I'm feeling compelled to give out the numbers again. The call-in number, if you have any question about your Kundalini, I don't care what subject, as long as it does pertain to some aspect of the Kundalini, call in on the telephone. The number is 347-934-0026, and Centaur will answer the phone. I'd be glad to take your question. So there we have it. And right now, I'd like to introduce my co-host, a woman who has done so much for so many. She's the one behind this radio show. She's the one behind I don't know how many seminars in Ireland. But Amelia Santara is a key person with regards to Kundalini Awakening systems, and I'd like to welcome her to the program now. Hello, Santara.
Hello, Chrism. Good to be here. Hi, everybody. I'm seeing you all in the chat room tonight. So it's good
we have
to
we have a good group. We have a good group in the chat room. And tell us how have things been going for you, Amelia?
Oh, things have been really interesting for me, Chrism, as always. My process is going along well. I've had some interesting experiences with it, and Now, I do want to tell you, Chrism, that Joey is going to be doing the announcements today. So when you want to announce the seminar in July that's happening in Minnesota, please go to Joey for the information. Rosemary will not be joining us this evening. I'm going to actually give now out the place people can go to if they would like to make a donation. So any of you who are listening, you're very welcome. And as you know by now, Chrism works on a donation basis. And so if you would like to contribute and make a donation, please go to the following website. It's www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and you will see the donate button there, and all donations are gratefully received, and thank you very much indeed for contributing. So that's it, Chrism. I suppose I would like to say as well, or just remind people, that there is a seminar happening in Europe in September, and that is happening on the first weekend of September, the 3rd and 4th. So mark that in your diary and maybe begin to make preparations to organize yourself to get there. And the person who is organizing that is Manisha. And Manisha can be found on Facebook. You spell her name Maneesha or Maneesha. And she's Manisha Manish. And you can message her there, or you can also send her an email, and I will be also getting a phone number for her. But the important thing at the moment is that you know there is a seminar happening in Berlin, and it is happening on the first weekend, and Chrism will be in Europe. So very much looking forward to that. That's the end of my announcements, Chris.
Komm Sie her, mein Fräulein, mit dein Kundalini in dein Händen. There's my German for you. for those. Well, hopefully.
My heart stopped because, listeners, I have heard Chrism speak German before, and he's got this rather rude German expression that he says for fun. I thought that's what she was going to do.
meet dein Kundalini in dein Händen. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
That actually works.
Excellent.
You know, that actually works. I think I will keep that. I will use that there in Berlin.
So it's exciting that you're coming to Berlin in September, because you were there last September. It's actually, I think, the same weekend, Chrism. Like coming to Europe seems an annual thing. Yeah, first weekend in September.
It might be, but I'm not. I didn't go there last time. I wasn't in Berlin. I was in London. I look forward to doing this Berlin and visiting Berlin and bringing this level of Kundalini to the Berlin population. I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to meeting the people of Germany within a Kundalini context. How wonderful. How absolutely wonderful. So I want to thank Manisha and Santara and everybody else who is helping with the organization. Sotantar, that's the name of another individual, and he's also helping, and Hannah is also helping, and so I'd like to thank everybody there in the country of Germany and in the continent of Europe who is helping to get us situated so that we can go ahead and all of us bring this level of information, of Kundalini information, to the people of Germany. Looking forward to that, especially with all the new people arriving in Germany, the people coming in from Syria and other parts of the Middle East. You know, I think there's a great level of opportunity for those people who are undergoing some very, very, very strong experiences to have the Kundalini. I think the Kundalini can awaken with people when they're uprooted from their homes, or they're, you know, great levels of spiritual, physical, psychological tension is being experienced. The Kundalini can come up, and this can be an opportunity for those folks as well. So once again, I want to say thank you to Amelia, to Manisha, to Sotantar, to Hannah for coming together and helping to bring this to Germany. We're looking forward to that. And since we're doing all of these announcements, let's bring Joey on here. Now, Joey is our fellow traveler to Peru, and when Joey got to the 9,000 foot level in the Peruvian Andes, she was the only one that could really tap dance well. And I want to say I'm continuously impressed, Joey, with your strength and your perseverance and your stability inside of very, very challenging scenarios. So thank you, Joey, for demonstrating such grace under pressure, my dear.
Well, I thank you for that. But let me get to the seminar. We're having a wonderful Kundalini seminar July 9th and 10th in Minnesota in Cannon Falls. And we're going to be on a absolutely beautiful natural prairie, and it should be just a special experience. It's about an hour from the Twin Cities. For campers, there's plug-in availables, also a kitchen and shower. There's also rooms available in nearby Cannon Falls. Early registration ends the end of May. Until the end of May, the price is reduced. And we also have an even lower group rate for 3 or more people coming together for it. And for more information, call Rosemary Goliath. Her telephone number is 651-329-9615, and her email is rosemaryg@usinternet.com, all small letters. Do consider coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. And thank you to Rosemary as well, because I know she's out doing some interesting things today. So thank you, Joey, very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and so as we continue, as the Kundalini comes into these muscle groups, these are pre-Kriya infusions. So you haven't started having the spontaneous movements yet, but the muscle systems are being prepared. So as these muscle systems are being prepared, levels of soreness in the muscle systems will occur. It's almost as if like the famous Dutch boy who put his finger in the dike to stop the flood, right? Well, Shakti has put her finger in the last 3 vertebrae of your spine, and she's gradually letting out a stream of energy that just begins the pre-Kriya infusion process. And it's going to be different for everybody, folks. I mean, some of you will have very similar experiences, but it's going to be different for people as they as they come to this with different karma, different infusionary levels, different timing for it. For some it'll last longer, for others it'll be shorter. But it'll all kind of dance around the same thing, letting a certain amount of energy into the system to just begin to prepare it for greater amounts of energy later on. And so these pre-Kriya infusions, they feel like you've got a sore muscles, you've got like a sore back, or you feel kind of a soreness about the body, kind of like you did a really, really hard workout, except you didn't. And some people that say live west of the Mississippi, they're worried about Lyme's disease because they say, oh my gosh, Lyme's disease affects the joints and it affects this and it affects that. And the Kundalini will mimic many of the Lyme disease symptoms, and I'm going to state it right here, right now. Many, many, many of the people that are diagnosed with Lyme disease actually have Kundalini, and the drugs that they're dispensed are basically there also to tone down any kind of Kundalini activity, in addition to anything that they would know about Lyme's disease. And this goes with Lyme's disease and what's that one called? Oh boy, it's another kind of a syndrome that people get that the physicians don't understand. We get an ache or a pain there. I'll probably remember it later on in the program. But don't jump for Lyme's disease. Lyme's disease is not that common, and I don't care if you've been bit by a tick. Not all ticks are carrying it. So you need to understand that this is nothing to panic over. Yes, it is not in your control. I will be straight up with you, just write it right now. It is not in your control. It is in the Kundalini control. The Kundalini controls how much of this pre-infusion energy is going to be given into any specific muscle group. Okay, so any specific muscle group, the Kundalini is going to choose where that energy is going to go. And as I mentioned, for one student, they're having it just from the elbow down to the fingertips. Another person will have it on their back. Another person will have just the quadriceps on their legs. The muscle group itself will tighten up by itself without you doing it. It'll tighten up, hold that tightness for a little bit, and then relax. Then it'll tighten up again. It'll hold that tightness, and then it'll relax. And this will go on and on and on throughout the day. And and it's a very, very, very drawn out process, but it's definitely setting you up for the Kriya stage. I would like to welcome Manisha to the chat room. Hello, Manisha. Manisha is the individual that is organizing the Berlin seminar. So I'd like to say a special welcome to Manisha and a special thank you to Manisha, Sotentar, Hannah, and anybody else that's helping us organize the European seminar. So thank you, Manisha. So as we continue, this can go to your teeth. This will go to your jaw muscles as well. And at one point you may feel yourself really tightening down on the teeth, and the next minute you'll feel it really relaxing, almost to the point where you're slack-jawed there. And it's very important for a person to understand that it's perfectly okay. It is totally normal. Totally normal. Okay. These types of scenarios can make a person feel like they're coming down with something. You may get a sore throat. You may get an earache. And as I mentioned before, you may get a twitch in your eye or a twitch, at the side of your mouth, or these are normal. The body is just responding to this infusion energy that is being slowly leaked into the muscle groups. Don't be afraid. Don't feel that there's anything wrong. There's no need to visit an MD. But if you want to go to the emergency room, I suggest you do that. Go to the emergency room and let them make all their measurements. But don't take any pills, because there really isn't anything wrong with you. There's more things right with you than wrong with you when you have this experience. Okay. This may also affect your dreams, and you also may be getting some informational-based downloads from the Shakti at these times as well. If you're inside of a practice, you may be given extra information about what she wants you to do with that practice. If you're practicing your surrender, if you're practicing your, how to really give yourself to the Shakti, and if she's already outlined a program for you to do that, then you really need to do it 100%, especially now that pre-infusion energies or pre-Kriya infusion energies are coming in. Very, very, very important for you to begin to set a pattern or to set a template for your body and for the Kundalini as she begins to make her entrance and she begins to change and transform your body. And so I'm gonna go ahead and introduce another special guest we have today. And I'll cover that a little bit more later on in the show. But right now, I would like to introduce one of our recurring guests. Her name is Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. And hello and welcome, Elizabeth.
Hello, thank you.
Hey, good sound. Now, Elizabeth has the Awakened Kundalini. She also has a very, very strong and helpful connection to her Shakti Kundalini, which has taken the form of the sacred spider, and which I think Elizabeth was actually introduced to the sacred spider there in Washington State where she lives, but she, I guess, during the ayahuasca ceremonies down there in Peru, La Araña, which means the spider in Spanish, La Araña came in a much greater way. Is that right, Elizabeth?
Yeah, very much so.
And hasn't stopped.
No, not at all. And she comes, she flows more constant now, and the downloads, like you were just describing, come in very much so in dreams. In last night, I woke up about 4 a.m. and I could just see her physically there, and then just a whole download came on my process and something that I had been worrying a lot about, and so I just, got a whole thing on that, which really clarified, and she'll do that in the morning hours. She'll clarify things that I've been thinking about and worrying about and asking her about, and then it'll just come in the form of either visual, or in this instance, it was like downloading pictures and incidences from my life and showing me, this is why, this is what this is why this happened, this is why this happened, this is, like that.
Wow, well, that's pretty handy. Does she have any kind of a message for us today, say along those lines?
Well, I can tell you what I learned, which was kind of huge for me, and I don't know if it would help anyone else, but I have been, for a lot of years, as you know, going through a fragmentation, and then I'm coming out of the fragmentation, but at the same time, and I think there are a lot of other people that this has happened to, something that I was very much ensconced in my earlier life was taken away from me, and I did not know why, and I didn't know, and I hadn't found this group, and I didn't know until much later on that it was even a fragmentation or why, and so I had been, and then all of a sudden it was bothering me again now, even though I have the information now, and I know what's happening and why it happened. A lot of people from my past all of a sudden started just posting things about the career that I had. I'll just say I was a professional musician, and I know why that was taken away from me now, but it still bothers me on some level, clearly, because, I have a friend who just put out a solo album, and another friend who's touring the world, and another person who's band is doing a huge event this weekend and this, that, and the other. And it was really bothering me. And so I was kind of thinking about it, not really directly asking Aranya, but this morning, that's what she and I was just wondering, like, why am I still feeling like, why would I even want to, that just isn't even an option for me anymore here, and why am I still, I guess it's a form of jealousy that I wish I were, it makes me think like, well, gosh, I wish I were playing, or I wish I were performing. And she brought to my attention, and I had been thinking, like, why am I such a different person? How come they are my age, but they're still doing that? And all of a sudden I'm doing this completely other thing. And what she showed me in pictures was, even at that age, even when you were doing that, you were different. And here's why. And she was reminding me of, remember the songs that you would write, and they would not use them and tell you the words are too deep. Like, come on now, Elizabeth, we're a pop rock band. We can't be singing songs about the divine and whatnot, And so she was reminding, like, you've always been this. You just always tamed yourself in and changed yourself for other people. And so you were always that. And so the underlying heart of the matter is, I was always that. I was just playing a different role within that. And so when she changed that, I am just actually able to bring who I really am and what I really am at the heart of the matter to the forefront, instead of having it stuffed down and having people tell me, no, you can't say that, no, you can't write that, no, you can't do that. Now I work in a place where that's kind of allowed. I am in a group, with Kundalini, where that's kind of allowed. I'm, where it's encouraged, in other words. And so that was the whole thing.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And it's so true. I feel that I hear so much. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm productive enough, or I don't feel like I'm not making the money I used to make, or I don't have the career track now that I had and I was so successful with, and here I was, in this career, just making all kinds of money, and now, oh my God, I'm having to live off my savings, and oh gosh, what is going on here? And I constantly reaching back into the past to try to bring that past into a present time expression, and it's just not going to work. Like Laranya suggested to you, this person has always been Kundalini. It just took a while for that person to get the clue.
Yeah.
And when we're immersed in a society that is filled so full of ego and all the different distractions that ego can provide for itself, everything from advertising to fear and fear of loss, want of gain, and everything from pornography to drug use to endorphin addiction to all these different levels of distraction that mundane life can offer you. And as we immerse ourselves into these distractions, it can really, really begin to, we can get a bit out of focus in our expectations of what life is truly about. And this allows us to fall into that weird funk, like, well, how come I'm not, making $100,000 a year? Or how come I'm not, as you describe, Elizabeth, how come I'm not a musician touring the world? And, everybody else that I knew is still doing that. How come I'm so different? And you're not so different. You were never going to do that. Yep. That was something that you were allowed to participate in. And I'm sure that it served you well, while you were doing it. It's just, that just wasn't the end of the road for you.
Yep.
See, that was not the end of the road. And look at you, Elizabeth. Here you are. You have direct contact with the Holy of Holies. I mean, that's a huge blessing. A huge blessing that is not acknowledged by the masses yet, but that may be changing as well. That may also occur later on. But for the moment, Elizabeth, I think you're right on target, and I think Laranya is right on target with you too. And I think it's an excellent message that she is bringing out into the populations that for those that are having the Kundalini right now, there was never really an option for you. You weren't going to sit there and go, oh, hey, Elizabeth, I think I want to have the Kundalini today. What do you think? You know, there was not that option. You were going to have it no matter what. That's what I feel Laranya is saying to you, is that you are going to have it no matter what. You can play lead singer. You can play lead singer till the cows come home, but you're going to be a Kundalini Awakened person. And wherever that leads you is where you're going to go. And so I just want to. I'm very grateful that you moved up to Washington. That you got out of the whole LA circuit type of scenario, and that you began to embrace the inner divine. I know you began to embrace it down there in LA as well. I know that it wasn't just your move that did it. But I'm very appreciative for the fact that you're able to support Laranya, to support yourself within this kind of an equation, and to bring out levels of support for others who may not be as far down the path as you are with Laranya. So thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And thank you, Laranya.
She also let me know that if I would have stayed there, the levels of ego that business
requires
exactly would not have allowed me to have any of this, possibly. I mean, not necessarily, but the possibilities would be far fewer, and it wouldn't have progressed like it has.
Well, and it's the same thing with the people that are lamenting not making the wage that they used to make, right? If they were loaded down with money, they probably wouldn't be able to get over their own ego and embrace this. They wouldn't allow themselves to have to go through levels of stress or levels of wonderment, levels of resistance, levels of surrender that provide this experience for you. You cannot be so fat and happy and have Kundalini, because the Kundalini is going to be about changing you, and sometimes that's going to change what made you fat and happy in the first place. Not all the time, but sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
So I just, I'd like to say, I just want to thank Laranya for being with you, for coming through you, and I'd like to thank you, Elizabeth, for coming on board, coming on the program, and really, really talking about these things. Very, very important things. People constantly try to reach into the past when they reach a difficult time during their Kundalini awakening. They're reaching into the past, desperately trying to bring back some aspect of their life that made them happy, that made them less nervous, that made them less on the line with having to embrace and surrender to changes that are not always comfortable.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, reaching into the past never works. The past is gone. Mm-hmm. Now, to some degrees that's true. To some degrees that isn't true. The past that I would say is gone is a certain level of past time experience that you don't get to make corrections from, and yet Kundalini also provides the ability to time travel. And, so on the one hand, I'm saying the past is gone, and on the other hand, I'm saying, well, you can still travel there. So, but, you need to get a certain level of Kundalini before you can do that. I talk about this in the safeties a bit when I say, wow, if you're feeling really afraid or you're feeling really down, say you're having a dark night soul or something of that level, then think of a time in your past when you were very, very happy, the birth of a child, a wedding, winning $1,000 at a casino, whatever it is that makes you happy. and bring that into the present time. So in a sense, that in and of itself is a form of time travel. And so, I think that's very important to also state that time is like a river, and you can walk up the bank, or you can walk down the bank, or you can kind of stay right where you are. But time can be traversed, but not in a way that denies you the refinement opportunities that the Kundalini is giving you. She will not allow you to time trip away from that. You will have to go through this rock polishing, or the polishing of the gem, the removal of the hard, scratchy, dull surfaces, and embrace the new person that is stepping forward, that new diamond, that new emerald, that new gem of an individual that is shining brightly from a light within, like you, Elizabeth, shining brightly from that light that Laranya gives you from within. So thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, Laranya. And
thank you.
Say it in spider language. Thank you.
And I want to thank her too, just for showing me that I'm right where I need to be, and that's okay.
And let other people know. Let's through this program, through that statement right there, that let's let the 14 people on in the chat room right now that they're exactly where they need to be at this moment, especially if they are already inside of a Kundalini Awakening equation. They are exactly where they need to be. Now, the responses that they're having to the Kundalini may not be where they need to be. So, for instance, a person can be in resistance, a person could be having a difficult time, and they may be trying to go back to that old life, and they may be trying to refuse the Kundalini. And that is a misplaced attitude, okay? You need to really surrender yourself to the Kundalini. Allow the Kundalini to take you where she wants you to go, the Sacred Mother wants you to go, rather than where your ego or where your comfort levels want you to go. Does Laranya have anything to add to that, Elizabeth?
I just heard she was just saying, and allow yourself to correct it, to be corrected when you start, because even when you're in a good place, because I will think I am, and then just like last night, all of a sudden I won't suddenly be in a place of surrender so much, and just allowing her to snap me back where I need to be and show me she always does in such a loving way when she does that through pictures and dreams, and then I'm able to see, and then I can think that through with my ego and realize how blessed I am to have it had come down this way, and then I can come back to the heart, back to where, knowing that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and return to my surrender and my trust and get back in line with my process.
Well, you also did a lot of work to earn that position, to earn, not being attacked by entities, or not having, your ego infused to such a degree that it forms its own inner dialogue with you. I mean, you've done that work through the Tree of Life work and some of the Kundalini work that you've done up here, and your ayahuasca work, the four ayahuasca experiences you had in Peru. And so you've done some work with that to earn that. But I'm going to suggest that other people are going to have inner dialogue that is corrupted by entities, and that is corrupted by the ego, which is being controlled by the entities, or given, certain aspirations of comfort and control that doesn't really exist within a Kundalini equation. Doesn't exist there. But the entities and the ego will make them think that it exists there, and they will feel that they deserve, the mental clarity, the emotional clarity, things of that nature, without doing the work. And I'm going to suggest you need to do the work, folks. You need to do the self-correcting. You need to, if somebody cuts you off on that freeway, you need to just let them in. If you see that they need to be let in before they cut you off, then let them in and they won't cut you off. You know, if you see somebody, you know, on the side of the road that needs help, well, stop and assist them. If you see this is gonna, I know I'm gonna stretch it a bit with folks, but if you, this is what I do. Okay, I was it was during traffic time, you know, around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I saw a snake on the side of the road wanting to cross the road. I could see her just sitting there and waiting for the cars to go so that she could hurry across. And there was no way she wasn't going to get smushed. So I pulled the car over and I gently herded her away from the road. And so that she could be safe and not, you know, get smushed by car tires. Do that if you're brave enough and if you know that it's not a viper. You know, the viper have the triangular head and they don't necessarily like to be told what to do. But other snakes are a little more amenable to that. Go out of your way to reach into the environment, however the environment is presenting itself to you, and give that grace of Kundalini. Give that grace of assistance. Give that grace of service. You know, Elizabeth talks a lot about saving creatures, about not killing the spiders, not killing the serpents, not killing things that even though you could just smush them with your foot, well, that is an absolutely intricate, beautiful life form and consciousness that you just smushed. Now, granted, you know, up to this point, you may have been innocent to that. And you know, innocence does as innocence will do. But you're not innocent anymore. You know what is going on with that creature, with that ant or that earwig or that salbug or that spider or that grasshopper or that bumblebee or whatever the insect is. You live and let live and do your very, very, very best to assist life rather than to take life. So that's my take on that part of it, Elizabeth. Do you have anything you want to add about assisting life rather than taking life?
Oh, I just had, it came to me, she said, choose when you come to a situation where you could do that, you could squish it, you could whatever, choose life instead. That's what she's saying. Choose life instead. Think how valuable your life is and extend that to everything else. And just
that's exactly right.
Life.
And it's the cornerstone of ahimsa anyway. Ahimsa, as in Sam, A as in apple. Ahimsa, Sanskrit word meaning do no harm, do not kill. And, you know, even though you look at the word ahimsa, do no harm, do not kill, well, you're going to kill that plant when you eat it. Plant's going to die. But the essence of that plant will go into you. So if you kill that fish or that chicken or whatever, the essence of that creature will go into you. So in many ways, you are what you eat. You are what you eat, and be thankful for the gift that particular creature has given to you. Be thankful for that. I'm sure Loranya is saying, oh, no, don't eat anything. You know, certainly not a spider. A spider would not say that.
Yeah, no deep fried spiders for you.
So anyway, thank you very much, Elizabeth. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the blue here.
Okay,
and thank you to Loranya as well. So this is just an FYI. You know, once again, as I mentioned, Elizabeth was already being communicated with by the sacred spider, a Peruvian jumping spider which can jump like 20 feet. The biggest and one of the most venomous spiders in the Amazon jungle. And yet this spider jumped onto her in a visionary state, clamped onto her arm, and led her on a journey through the jungle, explaining every plant, every animal, every situation within the jungle as she came upon it, teaching her and really working to help her understand. It's it's a very fascinating, very interesting story that Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez has. And she is a very prominent fixture on the Kundalini Awakening exclamation point group, as well as Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, and the Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 group, which is a private group on Facebook. So, look up Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and see what she posts. Her posts are coming directly from her Kundalini, which we affectionately know as Laranya. So once again, thank you to Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and Laranya. And so continuing on with the infusion aspect of the muscle groups and the levels of pain, the levels of throbbing, the levels of energetic undulation that you may feel when this begins to occur. And it's not uncommon for her to take it group by group or limb by limb. So for instance, a person may get this strained feeling just on the left side, but not on the right. And then it'll change over to the right side, but won't be there on the left. The Kundalini has a very, very, very interesting specific agenda with each individual. And I mean that as an individual, because we come to this world with individual karma. We come into the Kundalini grace with individual karma as well. And it's that karma that the Kundalini will basically use as a roadmap to energetic infusion and energetic enlightenment for the individual. And in these pre-Kriya infusions, she's going to be following the roadmap set out by you and your soul activities throughout the lifetimes as a way to begin the infusionary process upon you. And so don't be surprised if you feel your jaws tightening up or you'll feel the skin on your scalp artificially tighten up. It's not you doing it, but yet it's neither is it a ghost, neither is it some, popular channeling group of entities like Abraham Hicks or any of that other, how do I say that? I have severe disrespect for that because it's channeling, but okay, for any of that ilk. Not to say they never do anything good, but, they typically don't. They're teaching people to rely on the outside rather than on the inside. And on the outside, they just open them up to entity infestation, which is a common thing. And I've had people come to me for help with that level of infestation. So just an FYI about that. With this energetic, this pre-Kriya infusion, this will also begin to affect your emotional body. Your emotions are going to start going out of whack a bit. If you're inside of a practice where you're constantly trying to self-correct, or you're constantly trying to bring yourself out of an ego, fear of loss, want of gain mode, and to really, really begin to self-correct the emotional body, how you feel about anything and everything, this will begin to infuse more of an urgency into the emotional body. You'll feel this real urge, and that urge may be misinterpreted as irritation or emotional instability. And you may find yourself kind of going off on folks. Typically people the best, but not always. Just kind of going off on people in traffic, going off on people if you're watching television, going off on the TV, going off on the radio, going off on people you see in an internet group or something like that, just really watching the emotional body have a field day with whatever emotion it wants to express. And I'm going to suggest that you bring those emotions under control. Do not sacrifice your serenity when the Kundalini begins to push this in. And as the Kundalini begins to trickle this little amount of energy in, well, it can hit the emotional body like a bomb, because Kundalini is very powerful. Very, very powerful, and you're going to want to. So if you're feeling the strain in certain muscle groups, go to your feelings. How are you feeling about this? Are you feeling irritated? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling fearful? Are you feeling, anxious and anxiety? Is this filling up your day? And just go right back in to serenity. Remember what makes you serene and bring that to yourself. Understand that your metabolism is going to be kicked up a little bit higher because of this pre-Kriya infusion of energy. it's going to be kicked up a little higher. Your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions are going to be definitely affected by this. And yet you just got to have that level of self-discipline that allows you to have the control that you need to have. It's very, very important for people to understand this. And I'm going to just read what my co-host Amelia Centaura has put in the chat room. If anyone has a question, write it out, and if Chrism doesn't see it, I will let him know. It is here. Often, ladies and gentlemen, I am closing my eyes, and what you're hearing come through my mouth is from the Kundalini directly. Very similar to what Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez does with Laranya, except the Kundalini just kind of closes my eyes and takes control of me when I'm doing that, or certainly of what I'm saying. So just an FYI, we have some new guests here, about 5 new guests, and so I just wanted that to know. And Bartolomiej is a new person here too. So welcome to everyone. And that's kind of the dynamic of what I'm having. And so as we continue through the 5 bodies of the human expression, I've covered the physical body and the emotional body. And the emotional body is very, very important. Do not just because if you're a mucho macho man says, I don't need no emotional body, I'm doing just fine myself. That's the way I is. Well, if you pay attention to the emotional body, whether or not you're a rough and tough mucho macho individual. Pay attention to the emotional body because it governs how you feel about anything. One of the greatest treasures that people don't realize they have is the emotions. To feel love is an emotion. To feel serenity is an emotion. To feel good is an emotion. Let that emotion reflect goodness. Let your emotional body reflect goodness. If you need to grieve, well, then let it cry. If you need to laugh, well, then laugh till you cry. I mean, your emotional body is an integral part of the human system, and the Kundalini will definitely go right there and begin to amp that thing up or to pull it down. Whatever way she needs to do to increase the spectrum that a person has with regards to their emotional body. So basically what I'm suggesting is that you have 5 individual spectrums within your body. So you have the physical spectrum. Kundalini comes into the physical spectrum and begins to release a conditioning energy that is preparing a person for Kriyas. So that energy goes in and begins to increase the spectrum of that individual on the physical body. So that means that if your spectrum basically consists of from 1 to 10, and we'll just say that's as long as your baby finger there, your little finger, that's 1 to 10 in the normal, mundane, physical spectrum. Well, Kundalini will make it 100 miles long rather than just the length of your pinky. And as it makes it 100 miles long, it's going to take you to either extreme edge or end of that spectrum. She's going to increase it tremendously. She's not going to do that all at once. It'll be a gradual increasing, but it will increase nonetheless. And you need to understand that so that you can embrace it and surrender to that without resistance and allow that to function as smoothly as you possibly can. There will be levels of instability, of emotional instability, and I just want you to be okay with that. I want you to be okay with that. I want you to understand that this is a normal, natural part of the process and that your emotions can be extreme at times and they can be very, very dull at other times as your Kundalini begins to expand the spectrum of expression that you have through your emotional body, which moves me to the mind. In many ways, this Kriya infusion of energy will affect the mind in many different ways. Depending on the lock that the ego has on the mental expression will determine how much you're going to let the Kundalini and surrender to the Kundalini through the mental expression. It's very important for you to recognize that the ego, the human ego, is one of the expressions of the human system, one of the 5 bodies. The human ego is that psychological understanding that I am, I think, therefore I am, And so basically, associating our creation to the level of a thought. And to some degree that's correct, and some degree that's not correct, because we are more than the mental body. We've got 4 other human expressive bodies as well. So, we are 1/5 the mental body, but no more. No more of that, unless we're putting undue association to the mental body to determine who we are, how we are, what we are, and why we are. And that is what many of us do in current society, is we're placing way too much emphasis on the mental mind, on the mental body. And, at the expense of the emotional body, at the expense of the spiritual body, often with attributes from the ego body or the psychological body to support us in that way. So it's very, very, very important that people understand that the mental mind is a very important aspect of the human system, but it's not the whole thing. Reading, writing, and arithmetic doesn't necessarily replace feeling and emotional expression. It doesn't necessarily take the place of that exhilaration a person feels when they see a beautiful work of art. It doesn't come into the context of sharing love with another individual, or a flower, or an animal, or the earth, or the sky, or the stars. It doesn't replace that. The mental mind is there to think about things, to figure things out. And typically it's figuring out things outside of the body rather than that which is happening within the body. Now with the pre-Kundalini energetic infusion, or the pre-Kriya energetic infusion, the Kundalini will begin to work on the mind. But sometimes if you have an over-dependency on the mental mind, she will turn that down. She will turn it down. You will not have the mental acuity that you once did. And once again, nothing is wrong. You're not going senile. You're not having Alzheimer's. You're not having Parkinson's. You're not having anything of a detrimental disease-oriented foundation for what the Kundalini is doing. The Kundalini is purposefully turning that down so that you don't put too much emphasis on one body over the other 5. She's really going for balancing the 5 bodies rather than having one spike way ahead of another, that's causing an undue pressure or lack of attention to the other bodily systems within the 5-body human anatomy. So there is that. That's something that I would like everybody to understand with great levels of clarity, that the mental mind will be turned up in its acuity or turned down in its acuity. Typically, it's turned down because people tend to overthink. They tend to overanalyze. If anybody out there is a person that overanalyzes things, you know what I'm talking about. You can analyze yourself into a hole that you can't climb out of. So stop the analysis and trust the Kundalini. Trust that which is behind your heart and behind your eyes, and is really, really controlling the game at this stage of your enlightenment process, your Kundalini process. The Kundalini, as I've said many times on this program, the Kundalini knows you better than you know yourself. So allow that knowledge to occur. Allow that knowledge to come through. Surrender to that knowledge. Let her guide you. Let her guide you. And rejoice in that guidance. She may send you to a teacher. She may send you to somebody like me. I have to admit, there's not a lot of folks doing what I do, but she may send you to a teacher. I'm sure she can find one. And if she sent you to a teacher, then pay attention to that teacher. Make sure she sent you to that teacher. But if that's the case, then please do, and then pay attention to that teacher and obey that teacher and surrender yourself to the information that teacher has to give to you. It's very, very, very important work. One of the things that is very important to understand is this idea of never take advice of a spiritual nature from a living man or a living human. You only trust that which is, appearing to you within your head. Well, your head can be a simulacrum of Grand Central Station in downtown New York City, if you don't know the attributes of the human energetic anatomy. So these people that say this, I heard this last night on an interview with that program that George Norrie does. It used to be the Art Bell program. And the guy is, I forget who he's interviewing, but he's saying, never, never, never take spiritual advice from another living person. It's like, oh, so we can only trust the dead. We can only trust entities that are saying, yes, well, I'm verifiably dead, And I say, don't trust anything that you don't want to trust, but truth is truth. And your soul, your body, your Kundalini knows truth when it encounters it. Do not listen to a person or an organization that's saying, don't listen to other people, other living people. Because I got to tell you, from infancy, we have been listening to other people. We listen to our parents. We listen to our siblings. We listen to our teachers at school. We listen to our friends at school. We listen to the TV. We listen to the radio. What do you mean? Don't listen to other people when it comes to spiritual matters. How can we not do that in a mundane society that is so profuse with people forcing us to pay attention to them? And I know, you're saying, well, he didn't really mean it in that context, and maybe it didn't. But the scenario is even within spiritual understandings, we stand on the shoulders of those that have gone before us. Okay? Kundalini does not have very many representatives in this world that are actually teaching the truth of itself into this world. Now Elizabeth is one, and Laranya. They're speaking the truth, but it's not that common. It may feel common here because we surround ourselves with Kundalini people all the time. But it's not that common in the general population. And for people to go out and say, oh, well, don't listen to a teacher, don't listen to somebody alive, because obviously they're not going to have their ego in control, and so therefore they're going to corrupt you or abuse you or in some way mistreat you, and so therefore just run away in fear and never listen to anybody, never listen to a flesh person tell you anything spiritual. Well, I find that to be very, very detrimental because, even when a Kundalini comes to a person, especially a person in the Western environment, there is nothing written that can give them correct or the best information possible. And even if you do read it in a book form or on the internet, well, some living person had to put that there. And so you're literally reading and taking information from a living person. And so, a lot of this egocentric understanding is that never take help from anybody that's alive. I just say, happy Halloween to everybody because, they're taking information from all the dead people then. And of course, we know that on Halloween they all come back and they can all come. We can have a big conference on Halloween and only take the information from the dead then. So, okay, enough of my rant on that. I'm going to go over and bring Santara online here. Hey, Santara, are you awake? Are you the only one that's hearing this?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I have some questions. Excellent.
Really? Okay. Did you get any questions in?
Yes, I have some questions here for you.
Thank you.
I will begin with the first one. Should one practice the safeties, all of them, all the time?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
And just so people here know, safeties is a list of Kundalini Awakening protocols that the Kundalini in me compelled me to write for those that are inside or wanting to have the Kundalini come to them. So this is a group. It's a list of protocols that a person can practice every day. In some of these protocols, a person practices 24/7, such as forgiveness, such as tolerance, such as honesty to the point of immaculate honesty. Kundalini will give you certain levels of validation when you do things correctly the way she wants you to do them. And I keep saying she. I know not all of you are going to, genderize the Kundalini, but the sacred feminine is the sacred mother. And the sacred mother, just like a human mother will gestate the child, the sacred aspect of the femininity within Kundalini will also gestate and form and educate and mother the Kundalini Awakening individual, which would be considered the Kundalini child. That's why you hear me saying she is this and her is that. So just an FYI for that. And so she will indeed come into an individual and begin to give them specific understandings about their process that are absolutely instrumental to them. But it may not be the same thing as Chrism or Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez or Amelia Santara. It may be something completely different, but as long as it is not a corruption of your ethics and your morality, as long as that is not being corrupted in a nefarious way, you can trust that this is Kundalini. Kundalini will not corrupt you. Now, let's back up a little bit and let's talk about the safeties in regards to how she may begin to terminate a marriage or a relationship that is not serving the Kundalini or the individual having the Kundalini. This is a real deal, and some of you may misinterpret that as a corruption, and I don't want you to fall into that misinterpretation. The corruption is to stay in that relationship, forcing yourself to live in a house of doom and gloom or anger and abuse, forcing yourself to stay in a way that is not producing positive results. Now, some of the Kundalini teachings are exceptionally abusive to the ego. I mean, you no longer get to have ego coming in and running the show, and the ego will feel very, very, very much abused, and it will express those feelings of being abused through the emotional body, which it also has its fingers in. And so, as you're in that emotional scenario, and as you're in that relationship that is not serving you, she may come in and just start to separate you by force. And some of you may see that as a corruption, and I want you to correct yourself with that. That is not a corruption. That is a blessing. That is a gift. It's just a blessing and a gift that goes against, the vows of marriage. And she doesn't do this lightly. She's just like, oh gosh, I guess I'll just, split these two people up just for the fun of it. She doesn't do that lightly. She does it in a way that supports the level of grace and the level of enlightenment coming into that individual. It's very important that people understand that. It's very important that they not go into judgment because they're being compelled to break up their marriage, whether or not they have kids. I know one of my students, full-on relationship, spouse, couple of kids, and Kundalini comes to them in a dream one night and says, "Don't worry about it." Yeah, hello.
Chrism?
Hello. I'm here. Uh-oh. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
I can.
You cannot, or you can?
I can. I totally can.
Okay. And then I'm going to put you, thank you.
Okay.
Just FYI, everybody, Santara got kicked off of here she's coming back. She's like, I'm totally losing my train of thought, Elizabeth. It's just gone.
Oh, wow, I'm back. What was that?
I put you in the blue, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. Where did it end for you? What was I saying? My eyes were closed.
Oh. I don't know how long I'm gone. I'm gonna, yeah.
Well,
okay. When I left, are you asking what were you saying?
Yeah.
Chrism?
Yes, hello.
I'm gone
I'm
again.
here. I'm here. Okay. I'm just going to continue along the lines, my dear Amelia, and you go ahead. she got kicked off again. I have to tell you, everybody, she's calling in from Ireland. So she's basically calling New York from Ireland, and it's like, gosh, I guess it's almost like 1 o'clock in the morning, I think, over there. And so I just want to, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning over there where Manisha is. So another hand, of appreciation to Manisha. And Lana Seeker, right? She says, you were talking about your student who was married. Thank you, Lana Seeker. You saved me. So, indeed, have a student, has a spouse, has 2 kids. Kundalini comes to the student in the dream and says, look, this is going to have to end. This is not healthy for you. This is going to have to end. Don't worry about your children. They will be taken care of. They will be taken care of. And while the person resisted this, as you can imagine, and the marriage wasn't bad. It just was kind of stagnant, I think, is what was occurring there. And the Kundalini came to them in a dream and basically said, you need to start making separations from your spouse. Don't worry. Nothing is wrong. It's just that there is another scenario that is waiting for you that does not include your spouse. And I have to tell you a little bit of backstory to this student is the spouse had already turned the student into a psych ward because the Kundalini symptoms the person was having was frightening the spouse. So the spouse turned the Kundalini person into the psych ward, and Kundalini just was not going to allow that to happen again. Not going to happen again. And this is one of the reasons why the Kundalini ended the marriage. And it did end the marriage. And it found another husband for the spouse. It found it made sure that the children were absolutely taken care of. I mean, it was good to its word right down the line, which reinforces the level of trust that a person can have with this. So I really, really want you to realize that she will, if she sees it's necessary, take away your relationship. And you must surrender to that. But you do not want to interpret it. So, for instance, if there's an entity attached to you saying, yeah, this is the Kundalini, terminate your marriage. Terminate your marriage. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to a corrupting force. Feel for the honest-to-God truth that the Kundalini represents. And it's not hard to figure out. It's not hard to discern. It's very, very clear. And so go with those levels of understanding. And so this is also, indicated in the safeties. The safeties talk about surrendering the control of your life to the Kundalini, surrendering the control of the life to say a teacher the Kundalini picks out for you to have, surrendering your resistance to the Kundalini, surrendering your fear to the Kundalini, surrendering your career, surrendering the control of your life to the Kundalini. And I don't mean that just as a word play. I mean that as a direct reality. A direct reality. And this is so very important. You need to learn how to surrender to this unseen force that is kind of appearing in, behind your heart, behind your eyes, or through a teacher that she is directing you towards. Be very, very clear about that. It's not the easiest scenario. It is not the easiest scenario. Actually, the surrender aspect of the safeties can be construed as one of the most difficult areas. And if you're in a rapid format activation, meaning all this is coming to you very, very, very fast, within a year or so, you just need to really fasten those seatbelts and let yourself surrender totally to the Kundalini. Constantly self-correct, constantly moderate and modulate your behaviorisms and your responses to people, your responses to life, your responses to the Kundalini, your responses to your teacher. really, really, really begin to understand that it's crucial for you to not resist the Kundalini at all in any way, shape, or form. And this is also what the safeties talk about. And they talk about tolerance. They talk about, having the ability to withstand irritation or even pain that you can do nothing about. Having the tolerance to be able to hold that spontaneous position, such as a Kriya, that may not be comfortable. She may twist you up like a pretzel and then leave you there for 3 minutes. And if you try to resist that position, it will hurt. So there's that level of tolerance. It's also tolerating other people that are not in agreement with you, or that are not respectful of you, that are maybe somewhat abusive to you. You got to tolerate them. You can't live with them, you can't shoot them, so you got to tolerate them. So there you have it. And the safeties will also talk about meditation. These are very, 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 very important areas of Kundalini resistance and instruction about not having resistance that are listed in the safeties. This is why they're called the safeties protocols, and they're on Kundalini Awakening Systems 1.com. And there, if you scroll down to the left-hand margin there, not left-hand, but left-hand, it is the fifth one, two, three. It is the fifth one down. It's called The Safeties. So please feel free, everybody who's listening to this in the archives, which are the future people, the current people, which are the people in the chat room, and then those of you that are listening on your smartphone and your laptop and your computer, feel free to participate in those safeties. They're absolutely free for you, from my Kundalini to you. And thank you, Santara, for your patience in allowing me to go on about the safeties.
No, that's really helpful, Chrism. There's another question on the safeties, but I'm jumping forward. This question came in and you've kind of answered it, but I'm going to read it as it was. How can I give up control of my life to the Kundalini when I have so many responsibilities to my family and my work?
Well, the Kundalini isn't necessarily going to go in and destroy your marriage. I don't want to get that across. It's only if the marriage isn't serving the divine, the enlightenment process for the individual. Many marriages stay together just fine. It's not a problem. It's not a guarantee that you're going to lose your relationship. A lot of people have the degree of love and understanding for each other that allow the marriage and the relationship to continue, even though the Kundalini is present and accounted for. Let's just take Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and her husband, Al. They're doing great, as far as I know. They're doing just fine. And, Elizabeth is fully immersed into the Kundalini and Laranya. And then I believe, other people have the same level of support from a spouse. So it's not a guarantee that you're going to lose your relationship. I just want to say that. Now, with regards to having so many responsibilities within your family, well, that's okay. You fulfill your responsibilities. You just also fulfill the responsibilities that the Kundalini brings upon you. She may want you to solve those issues in a different way. She may not want you to manage your life the same way that you have been, and you need to be able to surrender to that new way of living your life within all of the different responsibilities that you have to your life. That, in and of itself, is surrendering to the agenda that the Kundalini is bringing to you. By allowing that change and assisting that change and making those changes. And you don't have to have a family to do this. You can just be a single person that is feeling the Kundalini tell you to do certain things. And you surrender to those certain things. And it doesn't mean you don't pay your bills. It doesn't mean you don't work. It doesn't mean that you don't drive. It doesn't mean that you don't have relationships, although it can mean for some of you that you don't have any of that. You don't get to have a relationship. You don't get to have a job. You don't get to have any kind of the life that you once had. And Centaur, I'd like you to explore. We got another caller down there. You might want to see how they're doing. They have the 111 like you do, my dear.
Mm-hmm. Will do.
So it's very important for people to understand that for their process, the Kundalini will customize what they need to do within their life pattern in order to fulfill what we would understand as surrendering to the Kundalini. And as I mentioned, the single person, the person that's not being allowed to work or not being allowed to have a relationship or even friends. Sometimes she will put you in a box just so that you can work strictly on the Kundalini, getting over the ego, getting over the entities, getting over any of the problems that are there either karmically or there that are currently being made and established within the individual, even as you're in that box. And there's no guarantee that everybody has to be in this box. It's not the same for everyone, as I said earlier in the show. But if you're in that box, well, then she's being very, very forceful and very, very connected and present in your life to disallow these levels of distractions to occur. Typically, that will happen to a person that has the rapid format activation. They get kind of sequestered away, so that because the changes are happening so fast and furious, that they're sequestered away so they can just deal with these scenarios. And they'll still have to pay rent. They'll still have to survive within society, but also the Kundalini will provide a means and a way for that to occur. They may just come into some money through some activity or through some type of a scenario that the Kundalini will create. They may come into that money, and that money may help them survive. It doesn't mean that they'll be lavishly rich or that they go out and buy a Maserati. The Kundalini probably won't allow that to occur. The person won't even won't be allowed to enjoy a Maserati or a Ferrari or something like that. I mean, so we're not being given cash just to go out and spend it frivolously. We're being given assistance, financial assistance from the Kundalini so that you can participate in this level of Kundalini awareness that the individual may be experiencing at this time. Okay, so it's very important to understand that, yes, indeed, you can have the responsibilities of a family, of a life, and still surrender to the Kundalini. You just need to listen to her first. Her first.
Great, Chris.
Not your mental mind first. You're welcome.
Beatrice is online. That was the 111, and she has a question for you.
Okay. Let's bring her on. Hi, Beatrice.
Hello. Hi, Chrism. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
The reason why I called is because I'm a little, there's something that I want to know, but I don't understand what my Kundalini is trying to tell me. I feel like pressure underneath my foot, both feet. And I've been asking my Kundalini, what does it mean? But I'm not understanding what it's trying to indicate or what it's trying to say to me. So that's why I called.
Okay. Have you been walking barefoot on bare soil outside?
No.
Why don't you start doing that? Do it for about 9 to 18 minutes per day. Make sure the foot is bare. And make sure you're walking on dirt or grass or something that is really coming out of the ground. It's a gesture for you to ground yourself a little more. And she wants to ground you from the feet rather than from the base of the spine. Okay. That's why you're getting that little pressure on the sole of each foot, right behind the ball of each foot. That would be the chakra of the foot.
So ground myself. Okay.
When you stand on that ground or that grass or that lawn, just visualize roots going from your feet straight into the ground. And you may feel like you're getting sucked into the ground, and that's okay. That is okay. No, nothing's being hurt, no damage, nothing like that. Go with it, surrender to it, and ground yourself with that.
Okay. Is there anything else that I missed that I need to know from my Kundalini?
Well, I'm going to invite you to listen to the archives, my dear, because I'm kind of like, I've got 30 minutes left of the show, which means I've done an hour and 30 minutes already. I can't go over it all. Yeah,
Too much. Okay.
Yeah. But
I always call for the last minute.
Well, I appreciate your call, my dear. I appreciate your call, and that's an excellent question. A lot of people will be asking that same question. Some of the archivers coming in on the archives, and maybe perhaps some of the folks that are in the chat room right now. So that was a very good question, and I want to thank you for asking it. Do you have another question?
No, that was it.
All right, my dear. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
You said just? Just? Okay. All righty. Coming back to Her Holiness here. Come on, Amelia. Oh.
You hear me?
Oh. Somehow I'm
Can you
hearing
hear
you.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So the next question goes back to the safeties, Chrism, and it came from the group, and it's, do the safeties guarantee an awakening?
Nothing guarantees an awakening. The safeties can bring an activation on, and an activation can lead to an awakening. But the safeties are not a do-it-all-for-you type of protocol system. You have to do the work. You have to apply yourself. You have to agree to do this work with the understanding that Kundalini can come from it. The safeties are the strongest activation platform that I know of aside from Shaktipat. There is no other system that is as rapid and as all-inclusive of strictly Kundalini Awakening material to be practiced. I don't know of another system that even comes closer than the safeties. Matter of fact, I have people taking the safeties off of my website, taking my name away from them and using them themselves, which I guess is fine. I mean, I want that information out there. I don't need to be, I know who gave it, and it's the Kundalini that gave it. So the safeties, do they guarantee an awakening? Nothing guarantees an awakening, not a single thing. The only thing that can guarantee Kundalini Awakening is Kundalini itself. Okay, so no guarantees, my dear. Over.
Okay, next question, Chrism. Why Kundalini activation and awakening is smooth in some and a difficult process for others?
Karma. And whether or not it's the first time they've had it. As I've mentioned in other programs, when you die, the Kundalini goes with you. That's something you get to take with you. You take your enlightenment equation with you. And that enlightenment equation follows you to the next life. I believe Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez is here for the second time at least. And you too, as far as that goes, Centaur. This may be another time for you to have this as well. But if you're having it for the first time, and of course, then there's going to be some more, shall we say, challenging types of refinements that a person can have. It's not. I gotta get back to the question here. Can you ask that question again? I'm starting to go off on some.
Yes. The question was just, do the safeties guarantee an awakening? That was the question.
Okay. Yeah, so they don't guarantee it, but they greatly increase the probability that it is going to happen. Greatly increase that. And if it doesn't happen, the worst thing that can happen to you by practicing the Kundalini Awakening safeties is that your body is in shape, your emotional, mental, psychological, physical, and spiritual bodies are totally in shape and healthy and being revitalized daily, because it's a daily practice. If it doesn't awaken, the worst thing that can happen is you become a better person. You're more forgiving, you're more tolerant, you're more patient, you're more loving, you're more honest, you're more disciplined. Okay. So the safeties are really, it's a win-win-win all over the place.
Okay, thank you, Chrism. It is. This question comes from the group. It's more yes, it is a question. My sixth chakra is running 24/7 for the last 3 years. Now it's giving a headache. How to deactivate? That was the question.
Yeah, I remember that question. This is a person that went to a book or some source of information about how to activate the third eye. And a lot of people are doing this. So a lot of people in India are going straight for the third eye and ignoring every other chakra. They're just going straight for the third eye where they put that little bullet hole that they call a bindu. Wow, that's really, it's a strong mistake. It's a strong mistake with very, very strong ramifications. You're inviting migraine headaches. You're inviting severe imbalance with your visual cortex and the spiritual illumination that can come from that. You're pre-activating the Ajna chakra just by the force and will of the ego. So this person did this. This person, and it was successful. And now he's suffering from severe headaches and wants to turn it off. And guess what, folks? It's not that easy to turn off. Do not activate the third eye before your first chakra. You do your first chakra first. You do your second chakra second. You do your third chakra third, fourth chakra fourth, fifth chakra fifth, and sixth or Ajna chakra sixth, not first. Okay. Now, one of the participants in the groups is giving this person a healing. I'm only allowing that simply because, if it is to be given, well, then this is good practice for the person giving the healing, and it's a somewhat worthy cause for the person receiving it. When this person worked very, 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 very hard and very diligently at activating his third eye, and he was able to do it, and now the fruit doesn't taste like what his expectations were of it supposed to taste like. And now, he's got a headache 24/7 that no drug will take care of. And these are some of the fruits of erroneous, ego-controlled investigations and activations that people can run into when they decide to just go for the phenomena, without doing any research on what the effect is. They jump straight into it, and they get hurt that way. And I just don't want any of you to get hurt that way. It is not worth it. It is very difficult, and it's not worth that. So don't activate the third eye first. Don't become a channeler. Don't practice Reiki. I may as well step on all the toes while I'm at it. So I'll stop here. Go ahead, Satara.
Oh,
over.
That's unusual. Well, you mentioned channeling. So maybe could you just say a little bit about that? Because somebody on the group today mentioned how they were okay with channeling. Can you say why channeling is not such a good idea?
Channeling is not a good idea. I mean, it's hard enough. Kundalini is difficult enough without putting up a welcome doormat to your brain and having dead people and in some ways demonic oriented consciousness come in and begin to possess you. And this is exactly what occurs. You've seen the people that are really into their alcohol on the street corner talking to the air. Well, that's what the channeler's doing. They're just not doing it on a street corner. Some entity is coming into that channeler and going, I am the great Oz. and I am a 35,000-year-old entity, and I have all the wisdom of the universe, and of course I will give that to you if you just give me more of your body, more of your mind, more of your commitment, more of you. And they just want to get their roots deeply, deeply, deeply involved in you to the point where you cannot disengage. And that's when the abuse really begins to occur. These are demons. These are demonic structures. And so they will scream abuse at you. They'll try to get you to commit suicide. I've had these people come to me, people that are listening to Esther and Abraham Hicks. They come to me and they come to me for healing of these entities that are trying to possess them, that are forcing them to drive their car through an intersection at 50 miles an hour when their light is red, and forcing them to rear end people and to get in accidents and forcing them to hurt themselves. I mean, this is what entities do to a person. This is the corruptive elements that channeling can introduce into a person. And the person is just the innocent little 5-year-old kid going, oh, I want to be a channeler because it looks so much fun. And I want to be famous. This is not the way to go, folks. This is going to hurt you. This will hurt you and hurt you a lot. And so I always, always, always advise people to go away from channeling. Walk the other way. Don't even listen to a channeler. Don't even go to a channeler for spiritual information. Let the Kundalini give you what spiritual information you need to have. And let me tell you, she knows how to give it. She'll just download it straight into your head. Channeling is not advised under any circumstances within a Kundalini Awakening format. Any circumstances. Over.
Thank you, Chris, and that's really clear. There's a question from Yazin Beatrice, which I think is Beatrice who called in, and she's asking you in the chat room, can Chrism tell me if Kundalini is now at my throat chakra?
Yeah. Kundalini is in every chakra of your body. Is it, and that means every cell of your body. Is it infusing up to the the fifth? Actually, I see it's parked more at the heart than it is at the fifth, although it's encroaching on the fifth, which is probably why she feels it there a little bit. Over.
Okay, I'm sure she got that. Okay, Chrism. The next question, again, is about the head. It says, can Kundalini activation start in the head?
Yes, you can have a top-down activation. Top-down meaning that the seventh chakra, the crown jewel, activates first and then flows that activation down to the sixth, the fifth, the fourth, the third, the second, and the first. It's typically harder. It's a harder format, but sometimes the karma of the individual will insist upon a harder format for greater levels of clearance, for greater levels of refinement to be given. And so these top downs, a lot of people that use drugs for spiritual purposes. One of them would be like the magic mushrooms are good for this. Psilocybin can initiate a top down. That's a fairly common scenario for them. It's very difficult. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to try to lighten it up for you. A top down, can be very hard because it's going from refinement into density. And it's difficult to do that sometimes, but it's not impossible. I'll say clearly a third of the activations that happen to a people will be a top-down manifestation. If you want more, if you want a visual on top-down scenarios, go to YouTube, put in Chrism Kundalini on YouTube. You'll see about 340 videos come up. And in the search window there, put in top-down awakening. And I have a couple of videos on top-down awakenings. I believe I have one or two there. So you might want to check that out as well. Top-down, not advisable, but sometimes it's unavoidable. So if you've been a person that's experimented with entheogens or plant-based medicines such as ayahuasca, such as psilocybin, such as Syrian rue, such as Amanita muscaria, such as marijuana, such as, these types of things, well, then you might be incurring a top-down activation for yourself. And, just start practicing the safeties. A lot of the time I'll advise people that are clearly having a top-down activation, I will tell them to begin to practice the safeties so that as the energy flows down from the 7th to the 6th to the 5th, well, the energy can also flow up from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then both the top down and the bottom to top will meet in the heart. And heart activation is one of the most beautiful things that a person can experience. It's beyond bliss. It's beyond ecstasy. Over.
Thank you, Chrism.
Yeah, sure.
I'm laughing at your chair. It's really rocking.
Oh, you can
there.
hear me? I'm moving my feet. It's not my chair.
Oh, yeah.
I'm moving my feet. My apologies, folks.
Okay. There's a question that has come in since the show started, and it's actually my last question. It says, I have a twitch in my eye for the past 3 weeks. Is this part of the preliminary infusions you spoke of at the start of the show?
Yes, that could be. That indeed could be a part of the pre-Kriya energetic infusion. Yeah. Remember how I mentioned it'll hit the ring muscles typically first, and so if you have a twitch at the corner of your eye, or even on the bottom of your eye, not so much at the top or the eyelid, but either corners or the bottoms of the eye of the ring muscle of the eye, you'll get that twitch there, typically in the outside corner. Yeah, that can happen. That is but it can also, every other ring muscle can twitch as well, and it is a fact of the Kundalini as she does this basic maneuver to begin to gently infuse a person with levels of energy that are preparing them for greater levels of energy that the Kriya system will bring. So yeah, that can be starting for that individual. That's the last question you say?
Okay. That's the last question, and just to say, Beatrice on the chat room says thank you for answering her question, Chrism. Yep, that's the end of questions.
Okay, now do you have any questions yourself, Santara, that you'd like to bring up?
No, Chrism, no, I do not indeed.
Okay, all right, very good. And of course, if there is anybody that is on the group, I see Alana Seeker is typing right now. She may have a question. I would like to reiterate that we're having the Kundalini Awakening seminar in Minnesota, July 8th and 9th. And so if anybody can make it there, this is July 8th and 9th of 2016. So please be advised of that. We're also going to Berlin, and under the guidance of Manisha and Sotantar and possibly Hannah, we'll be there on September 3rd and 4th of 2016. So I really want to push that out there and get people moving with that, and would really love to meet people from the United States and Minnesota, for people from Europe and Asia in Germany. So really looking forward to that. Be a pleasure to speak to some Russians and some Swedish people, Norwegian people, the people that surround Polish people, the people that surround Germany. That would just be a hop, skip, and a jump, jet-wise, to land there in Berlin and to participate in the seminar. It's a 2-day seminar, 16 hours of information and interactivity, and a Shaktipat if a person would like to have a Shaktipat as well. That goes for both of the seminars. The one in Minnesota is very special because it's on a restored prairie. It's I don't know, most of you may not realize this, but as you drive on Interstate 80 from Chicago to the West Coast, you go straight through the Great Plains areas, and these Great Plains areas have really been taken over by commercial agribusinesses, and there's very, very little of the ancient wild prairie left. And here we have about 100 acres of ancient wild prairie, everything from beavers to the natural birds of the area, to the natural plants, the natural wildlife of the area, is situated there. And this is where I would love to give Shaktipat. I love doing Shaktipat in the wilderness areas in the first place. And so it's a very, very special opportunity in Minnesota on July 8th and 9th. And so I would like to thank Joey for giving that announcement as well, and for Rosemary for coordinating as well. So thank you both. Thank you for that.
Actually, it's July 9th and 10th, not 8 and 9. 9 and 10.
My bad.
Yeah.
Scratch all that. July 9th and 10th. It's a weekend.
9 and 10,
Nope.
yeah.
I don't have my...
I was reminded of the Shaktipat in Kerry. Remember the one you gave outside on the rock? That was a beautiful Shaktipat. Yeah. See, those ones in nature are wonderful.
Yeah, what we did, it was very interesting, is Amelia and John have a standing stone, one of those prehistoric standing stones that had great spiritual manifestation to the ancient Irish. Matter of fact, they're the ones that put it up, and they had one that was on its side at the moment. Right now, it's been put back into the ground by the grace of Centaura and family, and so it is living its purpose right now. But at the time, I laid people out on the stone, on the side of the standing stone, and we gave Shaktipat on that stone. It was very, very effective, and very, very much a blessed experience. I want to thank you again for that, Amelia Centaura.
Oh, and that thank you. And yes, indeed, as you said, Chrism, I would encourage everybody who's listening that even is wondering, I wonder, will I? Listen to that voice and follow it. And if you can, do come to a seminar. They're very, very special. You'll meet Chrism in person, which is a very unique and special thing. And also you will meet other Kundalini people. And that's a rare thing. I mean, I'm here in Ireland and I don't get to meet other people. Rosemary is blessed. There's a community there in Minnesota, but that's rare. So, come to the seminar in Berlin. People will be coming from the UK. They'll be coming from the Netherlands. Jessa is coming. People will be coming from France. So please do consider it and come. You really will be glad you did. I don't know of anybody really who says, I wish I hadn't. And the same with Rosemary's seminar. If you're in the States, seriously consider going.
If you're in Canada, if you're in Mexico, if you're any of the Caribbean islands, I mean, come in, fly in, and come and participate in this level of awareness and level of spiritual acuity, spiritual definition and refinement. It's very strong, it's very powerful, and it's very beautiful. So if you can make either of these seminars, please do. But if you can't make the seminars either, don't feel like all is lost. Just keep paying attention to this program. If it's held in a time zone that isn't favorable to you, then use the archives. Use the archives. If you find that you fall asleep, just listen to it again. I know I have one of those monotonous voices that go, Kundalini is very good. It is a very happy thing. I want you to really invest yourself into the Kundalini. Right? So I can see how I put people to sleep.
No, Chrism. No. Your voice is not monotonous at all. It's actually very interesting because the Kunda. Someday it would be very interesting to have a conversation with other people as well, I think, on the group about, the effect of listening to your voice on the radio. I mean, I have spoken to some people about this and they have shared, how amazing it can be for them to actually hear your voice and the energy that they feel coming into their ears and that, So, there's huge energy in your voice and you're certainly not dull and boring. And, we're never quite sure what you're going to say. So that of itself is also very interesting.
Well, thank you. I try not. I mean, I know what it's like to listen to people that don't have very much variation in their voice. It's very hard to discern the information that they're giving because you're trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah.
You know how that. Yeah. So.
Dear ones.
Dear ones. Dear ones. My favorite saying. Dear ones.
Right.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody for listening today. Thank you for the people in the group. Thank you for people in the chat room. Amelia, do you have anything you'd like to say before we go?
No, Chrism, I don't really. Just thank you to everybody for listening. I really enjoy being here. I'm very aware of a community gathering every Wednesday. People in the chat room, I know the group varies there. Sometimes there's a lot, sometimes there's not as many. But every Wednesday there's a gathering of of Kundalini people around the world at this particular time. There's quite a lot of people listening in many countries. And
that's interesting.
It's very cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
So hello to all of you. And again, throughout the week, between now and next week, there will be people listening. And I want to say hello to all of you as well. And thank you, Chrism. And catch you again next Wednesday.
Okay, and I'm going to come on over to Elizabeth and offer Elizabeth some last words here. Elizabeth, any last words from you or Laranya?
I don't, except just thank you, and thank you for putting on this great show.
Oh, I have to abjure to Amelia for that, but you're very welcome. You're very welcome. From my Kundalini to yours, and from me to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Much love, and gratitude. And here we go. And I would like to thank everybody who is listening to this show in the archives, for tuning into the archives, for everybody that's coming online right now. If you have, if you want to look up any other sources for this information, as I mentioned earlier, you can go to the YouTube channel, chrism.kundalini, and YouTube will take you right to we've got over 300 videos there. We have Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo Groups. We have Kundalini Awakening ! On Google+. We have Kundalini Awakening ! On Facebook, as well as Kundalini Awakening Systems 1, Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, Kundalini People, Kundalini Radiance, Community, Kundalini Healing, both public and private groups. And so we are trying to get it out there as much as possible. And I got to say, it's a team effort. It's people like Amelia Santora. It's about people like Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. It's people like Rosemary and Joey. People that are getting it out there. People like Manisha, and all of you that are listening on the chat room. I mean, it's people. We're getting this information out there so that the people can begin to come into balance with greater levels of Kundalini Awakening, and that is really the reason why this show is there. So I want to thank everybody for listening, and I will end it the way I started it, minus the music. Not quite sure how the music worked, but we'll try that again next week too, perhaps. Have a beautiful, beautiful evening for those of you listening in Europe. Early morning for those of you listening, deep into Europe. Have a beautiful afternoon for those of us on the West Coast. It's a beautiful day out here, sunshiny, slight breeze in the upper. I want to say thank you to everyone for listening to this program. And here we go.